this is already part of the class, part of any kind of work or study, is always to bring the mind back to us, because we can't possibly absorb information, be fully present, if we haven't taken a moment yet. So we check in, feel our chest rising and falling. Let the shoulders rest comfortably. Oftentimes, when we go throughout our day, we feel like we don't have these few minutes. But actually, there are many studies that show that when you take 15, maybe 20 minutes time meditation before or in between your work time, you will be in the remaining time much more effective, making up for the time that you took to meditate almost double. That's why for us, meditation is not something where we have to take a break from work to do meditation. Meditation is part of the work, part of the preparation. When we study anything, we need to focus, stay focused, and reflect back and forth on the information that we are presented. So before we even dive into the information, we clean our desk plate first by just simply doing nothing except keeping our mind with ourselves. We become the observer of what is happening right now in our body and in our mind. Really fun in this. It's really fun. You're not there to change it. We're just there to witness it so that the mind can do its job. Always, if our mind wanders, if it gets entangled with the things that come up, just gently guide it, escort it back. Please take a moment to check in again and realize that even our body already feels completely different than it did at the beginning. The breath, more relaxed, heartbeat, more relaxed. Even the posture, relaxed. We realize that we have this space, safe space that is always there for us to come back to throughout our day. to let everything go. All the thoughts and narratives. Get ready to come back. Open to start what looks like it will be Zoe's private lesson.
Desperate patience. I feel like there's loads of people here.
Well, it's recorded, I guess. No. Thank you very much for being here.
No, of course. I wanted to support you, Cal.
So, the topic of today's class is that many people, actually everyone we talked to that was with us in Papay or in any other place in Thailand, always facing the same situation coming back home. It's kind of either it's a such a strong contrast that people immediately feel like almost like a wave of everything coming back in, or it can be, and that's especially for people who have been in Thailand longer, who have maybe ordained, joined a long-term program. When they come back, it's like more of a slow transition, whereas in the beginning they feel like, oh, it's like way calmer and they have like an easier time not reacting too quickly to people, giving more people the benefit of the doubt. But then they feel that over time that wears off. And especially for people who have spent a long time, we have heard often that they feel frustrated. They feel like they put a lot of work in, but then they are not sure if they can see the change, the long-term change. So over time, we have talked and like had phone calls and online videos with many people who went back home, and the major thing is that, of course, what everyone knows is that they change the environment completely and the people that surround them, or what we call the system. So the components, everything is different. The kind of people that come together are different. Therefore, the conversations are different. The topics are different. The goals are different. Whereas when you're in Papay or ordaining for a longer time, it is all set for a certain goal, which is to basically help people become or come closer to their true self. And there are many steps that way, and everyone is at their own place. But when you come back, then the goals that the institutions around you have, the institutions you're a part of might as well, and your friends group and your family and everything might be very different. So you change from one system with one goal, with one almost like two factories, and like the factory, you change factory, and the product they're making is different. So if you start to, if it's fully dependent on the system outside, then you would literally over time become a different product. Like that factory did something completely else. So people then ask, is it even possible to have that goal when they're not living in a monastery, when they are not choosing to become a monk or a female monk? The answer is yes. You can absolutely have that goal. And if you go looking for people that are not in monasteries and have that goal, you will find them too. Yeah, that's basically the topic for today. Is like, what are some things that we face? And like, I'll just use me as a case study because I have to come home. Like, some things that I face and how I deal with them. And then, since it's a private class, usually will be to share some of what the challenges that you faced in like the past, but that you're also still facing. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to what we can put together. If you want to switch off your video at any point, no problem. I'll just look at the photo of you. All right. So coming back, changing system. There's always a system that we are responsible for, which is basically the activities that we go through. So Jimmy likes to say your routine or also your normality. So from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, how do you invest that time? Those maybe depending on how long people sleep, like 15, 16, 17 hours, but how do you invest that time every day? And that is what you have at least some, the word is missing right now, some authority about, like some choice. What, yeah. So that's yeah, finish like that. Okay, so that is also a system. Why system? Because it's processes. Like, one thing will lead you to the next. Like, waking up, doing yoga and meditation will lead you to the next thing, which is maybe like sitting down to prepare for a meeting at work or something. Like, one thing will lead you to the next. And each process comprises of like smaller things that you do, like rolling out your yoga mat and cooking your breakfast, like mix everything together, and all the components that come together. What you can't always influence are like, there's loads of factors now that you are unable to influence, even when you set the perfect routine. If you are not living alone, for example, you might be living with a family, with friends, with a partner, something that you kind of like have to calculate in, definitely. And then as well, that if you study, you work, you have something else during the day, then of course you will spend a lot of the hours actually of your day doing that. So how do we then go about our day? Like, how can we best make sure that the system we put ourselves into is a good system, also bringing us towards a good goal? So many books have been written about this. It is like books such as Atomic Habits, or like the 7 traits of a highly effective person. There's so many books on this because people have realized that the system you yourself create for yourself, your routine, matters a lot. And the first ground one that we want to teach everyone is that one thing, no matter which activity you go through your day, is that have your mind with yourself. Be mindful. So if you have to, for example, spend 6 hours, 8 or even 10 hours at work or studying or something like that, then we still want to have moments of that time, because oftentimes in the beginning it will be moments when you remember to breathe, moments when you remember to like sink back down, relax, not react immediately if someone says something that might trigger you. And like kind of almost like we have a we want to fill our bucket with that. Like we have a bucket in every moment that we're able to win, to be mindful with ourselves and actually observing what's going on right now. Someone saying something maybe, and you're like, oh, I'm triggered. All right, I'm knowing that I'm triggered, and you're already filling up your bucket. That is one thing. That is the number one thing. When Jimmy teaches anyone, he's like, if you can take one thing away from this, then take knowing. Take being mindful, bringing your mind back to yourself and asking yourself throughout the day, what am I knowing? Maybe even choosing an object in the morning, waking up, doing like 5 minutes of meditation, saying, okay, today will be a breath day. And today I'm going to try and know my breath as much. Or another thing, just for the knowing one, is, as I said, you have a system with many things that will happen after each other, many activities, because you're always in an activity. Even meditating, doing nothing is also an activity. So before you start anything new, like before starting to eat, before starting to work, before you basically switch from one activity to the next, like taking that moment to set the goal again. Okay, like maybe you were stressed for like half an hour in a call, and then you realize you hang up. Like, okay, I'm just gonna take a moment now to be like, okay, I wasn't mindful, no problem. Let's like recalibrate and let's start again, as if you would like wake up and start your day again. So you can have these mini check-ins like throughout the entire day, which can really help. And even if then through the activity you're not as able to be mindful, you are already practicing setting the goal before. So setting the goal for that period of time, which is why in Atomic Habits, it's called atomic because it's like so small. You start with these really, really small things that you do, like taking 1 minute a day to read up, to meditate, even to this or that. And that will increase over time. So starting is, yeah, just not stop or stop. What I mean is, Jimmy always says when I'm like, well, I could do all of this throughout the day, and he'll be like, yes, what can you do right now? Because all we care about is right now. So, for example, you still have to study, you still have to do this and that. But right now, you're in the waiting room for your doctor's appointment. Maybe you can't do anything. Therefore, what is it that you can do? Okay, I can do nothing. Great, I'll do nothing, but I'll fully do nothing right now. And then when you have the moment you're at home, then not worry about, okay, what am I going to do 1 hour from now, but what can you do right now? Just care about this moment, about this second, and then maybe this minute, because then it doesn't feel so heavy. If you feel something like you want to write a book or something, it can feel really heavy, and you think, how many hours am I going to sit here? Just sit here for this 1 minute, for this one moment, and then we go moment by moment. Yeah, that is what, like, how planning, like when I talk about systematically and you have your activities throughout the day, planning is a one-time thing. You planned it and then done. If we come and go back to it, we're not with the present moment anymore. And we have, if we were then to look at our day, we'll find like half an hour of time where we feel like we didn't do anything, but what we actually did, we were lost in thought thinking about what we would do. That's why when that happens, we realize just in meditation, like we wandered off, we went along with that, and then we bring it back. Yeah, that is the first part about system. And the second part is now like my own experience, not going to be too long, on like what people, and me too, like what everyone who goes home struggles with most is, of course, something like procrastination, not like having the system that will help them, that be like, okay, this time is breakfast, at this time is this. Like they don't have that routine anymore and they feel like they procrastinate. That's number one. Number two is people. Yeah. That's a big one. People coming home, people. Feeling like misunderstood, or like people have different goals around you. Many things that you face when you come back. And there's one advice that I've given before, and that I'm using all the time when I'm not just when I'm at home, but like when people walk up to you, they're two, they're hi, there are two possible um, possible things that could happen. One is that they actually want to like seeing you for the first time again. They want to know, they're really interested, they really want to listen, they're there to ask questions and know back. And then you feel like you have this space where you can just share. You don't have to teach anyone. You just share what like has helped you, how you felt going through that, and what you're doing at the moment. And then there is the other kind of thing that can happen, and it can be within the same person, but at different times it changes. And that is someone who comes who either just wants to, we call it vomit, like just like tell you something. They don't even really want to have your feedback or anything. They just want to once, or they come not really wanting to listen, more like uh, ask a few questions, but then not really listening for the answer, kind of already having an idea of what they're going to hear. The kind of basically either people come and you feel like you can be fully there with them, and you can just share and they will listen to you. And then, or the opposite, people who really want to have your feedback and they want to share something with you and then will listen to you in turn also afterwards. The other kind of people that for whichever reason don't. Can also be just people on the street that you just pass by, can be just strangers and everything. And for me, I use these two categories because I have two different ways of dealing with them. One is that if people come and they actually ask question and they really want to know, then, or they really want your opinion on something, then it's wonderful to just take the time to actually share and to really give them your time. And when they talk, you listen. And when you talk, they'll listen. And listening is the last thing I want to be with, like, how do you actually listen properly? So it's not something that, not that easy sometimes. So what is it actually? And the other kind, I don't know if you've ever watched Madagascar, Zoe, but you know the penguins, and the leader will always say, "Smile and wave, man, smile and wave." So whenever the other kind, like people who just want to vomit, like they don't want any kind of feedback or anything, or people that just acquaintances or anything, are just people that remind me to be specifically mindful. So that is like literally the moment like someone comes and you can some people, they can feel it energetically, they already know, and I'm like, oh, okay, my moment to be mindful. And then while they talk, I'm also completely silent, and I just smile at them. And that is the funniest thing ever sometimes, because people then, if they are like, right now they don't feel good, but then the person opposite from them, even though they say something that might not like be completely rainbows and everything, the other person is just nodding and smiling, just like, like I'm listening. I'm 100% listening, and I'm 100% like checking in that I'm still aware, I'm still aware, I'm still aware, because I know the danger of having any desire or aversion to whatever they're saying. Especially aversion if you feel like someone is oversharing, telling you stuff. The aversion is what will arise inside me. So that is where I am looking. That's where I am standing guard to make sure that I know which kind of energy I'm putting up while I'm in conversation, while I'm talking to them. Sometimes we can't choose. Sometimes it's our family. Sometimes it's at work. Sometimes it's just people that you happen to be around at the time. So we then find a way of still making it something for us. So those are moments that I take almost to like meditate with my eyes open. And the last one is listening. So how to properly listen is basically listening from the beginning to the end while the person is talking, not listening to the thoughts that come up, because they will, just like in meditation, they will come up and they will tell you, oh, this is what you could say to this, or remember this time, or this and that, and almost like they are having a separate conversation with you in your head, and you're always already kind of waiting for the person to be done talking so that you can then share with what came up for you. And the next level of it is that you let them all go, let all of these thoughts that come up go, not fearing that you'll forget them, but just focusing 100% on what the person is saying across from you at that time, so that when they are done talking, you take that time to then let those thoughts come. Then be like, okay, now I'm going to listen inside, or rather, instead of let these thoughts come out, I would cross that out and say to listen. Then listen inside. You were just listening outside. Now it's the same thing that you did, but you just switch. You switch to the inside, and then you take that time to rearrange. It is what we just listen inside, and it will rearrange the information perfectly so that it fits for the other person. And something that needs to be practiced. It is something that will sometimes create pauses in the conversation where you stand there or sit there, either with your eyes open or closed, just taking the moment to, after being finished listening outside, then listening inside. And I really, 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 really recommend to try that, because it is an amazing thing to do. It's an amazing tool to be able to listen 100% to outside and also inside, to give that, to stay mindful while you are talking and while inside someone is talking. Yes, that is what I'm going to finish with. Listening, how to properly listen. Don't worry. Please have your sandwich. And yes, it's one thing that I feel like you never stop learning. Even though I knew that this is the right way to listen, I'll still find myself sometimes not in a moment of not being mindful, not doing it like that, and then reminding myself to come back and like be like, okay, I'm listening to that person. I'm 100% here. Yes, that's it. I'm done. And I do that to the people that honestly want my opinion the same way I do that to people who just want to vomit. Because while I'm fully there while they're talking, it's like this respect I'm giving not only them, but I'm also giving it to myself. Like just staying there, staying there, staying there. Yeah, that's it.
Hi, thank you for sharing that. I think that's definitely a really great skill to have, and one that I think few people do have sometimes. I think we like sometimes when we're having conversations, people get so excited about like what we want to say because we like resonate with what they're saying, or we're like, oh my god, I have really good advice. Like this person should hear this, and then sometimes it's like like you're so focused on like what you want to say that then you've stopped listening to what the rest of the person said or what the rest of their sentence or conversation was. And I think it's a good way to also look after yourself when you're in situations like you say, like we have a saying here where it's like what is it? It's like some people like can bleed you like a radiator, like they're like a radiator. There's like another saying that where someone can be one thing or they can be something else. But it's really I think someone can be like a radiator or someone can be like a drain. Like they drain all your energy or they make you feel really warm when you're like talking to them. And I think like you say, sometimes especially if someone's going back home and maybe they're in like a friend group or they're at like university or like family or whatever, and in certain social situations where you can't necessarily avoid maybe someone who kind of drains your energy, so then you can kind of protect your own energy by just like being mindful, which is definitely a great skill, but I think it's something that you have to like continually practice. I don't know how long you've like practiced for to like get to that point. But yeah, it's really interesting. But do you think that like is it sometimes better if there's like situations where like say you do have someone or like someone has a friend, thankfully it doesn't, like none of my friends are like this, but if you did maybe have someone who like was a friend and maybe you're like, oh, do you know what, actually I actually find this person quite negative, I find they like drain my energy a lot, they don't really add substance to my life, like I don't feel like I can like grow with that person alongside me, are there just points and situations where you're like, yeah, do you know what, perhaps this friendship is no longer serving me, perhaps this friendship isn't like what I need in my life anymore, it's not like conducive. Other times where you can just be like, yeah, that's okay, like that's fine, because I think that's like important to also have like boundaries, and like at what point do you also be like, do you know what, this person being around them isn't good for my mental health, or like it's just not nice to be around their energy a lot, so you kind of like set boundaries, because I feel like boundaries are very important for like your mental health. So is it just more like if you're in situations like say a family event, you have like a cousin and you're like, oh gosh, they're here again. So like when it's those settings you do that, but like outside in your normal life you wouldn't really see them. Are there times when it's fine to have those boundaries and times to just be like, do you know what, I don't need to see them that often so that I can like protect myself, if that makes sense?
That's a very good question. The first one, also Jimmy always says, is we never want to burn bridges. Like what we're experiencing is that 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 person, that other person, most of the time probably is someone who is controlled by their bad nature a lot. Sometimes not good, not bad, but mostly you'll experience these people where you feel like I need boundaries. They are controlled by their bad a lot. So as we know that every person, and know that from ourselves and from our own mind, that every person is a composition of these three natures, we realize that at least at that time, right now, we've identified they are a lot with their bad nature. So the reason why we never want to burn bridges is that we know that no one is 100% bad, and that there's definitely, like as we say in Buddhism, the true self is solely good, and sometimes it's just covered up by a lot of stuff. So we choose to definitely never burn bridges. So at the same time, we do regard our time very highly, because we have learned that how we spend our time every day dictates the outcome. Like how you spend your time will dictate the outcome. And it is, so it's not that easy of an answer, because in the end, the pictures that are in our mind often, and what you just said too, Zoe, was like someone's a radiator or a drainer, so that the other person is like draining your energy, or like a vampire, kind of like sucking your energy. That is actually not possible. That is actually not possible. You can still feel drained after spending time with a person, but then we want to look closer at the process that is happening. The process that is happening is that on the inside, there is something, oftentimes, like I said before, aversion towards either the other person, but most like what they're saying, the way they're acting, the way they're behaving. And then it will come with voices as well. It's like, I don't agree with that, like this standpoint, this is like this is, for example, this is racist, this is that. And then this energy that we afterwards feel, like we feel drained, or like we feel like we pulled up bad energy, that's actually our automatic system, because we instead of being having our mind with ourselves, our mind is right now occupied not by their bad nature, but by our bad nature. So at the same time, there's a reason why people say set boundaries. And the thing is that while you're still practicing, you are practicing not to go along with your bad nature, and you're not good on bad nature. So then other people's bad natures and not good on bad natures, like, level up. You know, you have to be able to deal with yours to be able to deal with theirs, meaning that having the right view on them. So you study yours, you become to get the right view, to not go along with the narratives. You practice mindfulness, and then when someone else does it, it's just the same as if thoughts would arise in your mind that you don't want to go along with. So it's like extending your mindfulness practice. But as you see, monks and people who go onto this path, they choose to also make sure that at least the ground environment, like everyone can come to a monastery and ask questions, also people who are controlled by their bad. But the ground, like the people that are grounded around you, your inner circle and everything, you are set, you're grounded, you have support. So look back at yourself and see, can you deal with it? Meaning, like, can you be aware of your own bad nature that kind of like wants to clap with the other person? Because if the other one is controlled by their bad, but you don't clap with them because you know yours, it will be like this. right? You can't. One person trying to clap, it doesn't make a sound. So if you realize that there is like inside you bad nature that specifically wants to either fight with the person, be annoyed at the person, be sad because of the person, like we know that that one is inside, and um, we don't strive to put ourselves in these situations. That's like that doesn't make sense, right? So we don't strive to put ourselves into these situations. Absolutely, we don't burn bridges, and we're aware of where it's actually coming from. That those are the important things. That means that you can yeah, that means definitely that you can pull back, like spend less time. That definitely means to observe a lot. But many times people will face that and they can't just pull out. It will be their boss, it will be their family, it will be this, it will be that. Because we don't want to burn bridges. We know that that like is only the bad, does that. We then just strive to pull back a little bit and practice, because for our own benefit, we will want to do that, and they will just be the second beneficiary.
Thank you so much for that. That was really, really interesting, especially about actually like if you're feeling drained, it's not necessarily that it was actually that person, but more the judgments that maybe you were like making about this person, how you're maybe trying to like label everything that they were saying. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it this? Is it that? And it's more like you're bad inside, kind of like rumbling up and like coming up rather than kind of just like sitting and maybe just like, as you say, like listening and just having like compassion for this person rather than kind of just sitting like judge them and stuff like that. But it's so interesting because I didn't know about you, but it's kind of like such a big thing here where we kind of like talk about energies and go away like, oh god, Jesus, listening to that person, like I'm knackered. Like, are you just so exhausted? You're like, oh my god, like I thought they were never going to stop talking, or like, god, they went on about that for ages, and like just all these things. And we always talk so much about like how others like made us feel, whether that was like in a good way or a bad way, or like. But it's interesting too because sometimes they like find that like maybe I meet people and I'm like, ooh, there's just something about their energy that I'm like, they're not the one. And there's other people I meet them and I'm like, oh, they have like a really lovely energy, or like, and I don't know, but sometimes I feel like my like instincts, because I feel like it's always my gut, like my gut told me like, oh my god, Carmen, like you need to befriend Carmen, like. And every time I like befriend people, it always works out really well. And at times when I meet people and I'm like, ooh, there's something that doesn't sit right inside of me with that person. And then later down the line, I'm like, oh, okay. I was kind of maybe like, I don't want to say like right, but like, I don't know, like I met a like friend's boyfriend like last year, and I just immediately was like, oh, there's just something not like, there's something about his energy or something about him that makes me feel just a bit like, ooh. And like as time's gone on, I've kind of like gotten to know him more. I feel like I'm maybe like right in that sense that he's not the type of person that like I would kind of surround myself with or like have in my life, just with very like different views, very different like values. I feel like he kind of just doesn't like have that sort of like empathy to be able to like understand people or like people's situations and things like that. But yeah, that's I think an interesting one. I'm gonna do like a scientific experiment with myself the next time that I want someone and I find their energy draining, and I'm gonna see like what's actually coming up for me, like what thoughts am I having, and like what judgments and like what voices they're kind of like coming up for me. So that's like so interesting to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely one thing that I want to like. You also never give the blame on yourself, right? So because you said that's actually you and like the judgments you make, but then we know that these judgments arise by themselves, and we just strive to be mindful and be aware of them and not identify with them, because the moment we accept them as our own, just like with the thoughts in the meditation, we are lost, we're in them. So as a meditation practitioner, exactly what you said in the end is 100% it. Exactly, like you basically you see the person, you get the feeling, and then you start meditating right away. Like standing there in front of them and then observing what comes up inside of you. um Again, just like in meditation, you will always tell people like it's okay if you went with thoughts, if this and like it's okay. Same thing, like the judgments will arise and everything, by then faulting ourselves like, oh, you're this awful person making judgments about this person that you don't know. Again, is another thought that is trying to pull you down, just like in meditation. So it's exactly the same thing. So we just know, who do we actually have to watch out for when we have that feeling with another person. And it's not like a dangerous situation where you are like in a in a dark alley or something. Then we watch out for the real threat, like and like for the real threat, not but like for the real culprit that will try and come up here. Well, not here because your mind is not here, but wherever the mind is. um so absolutely, and that's a beautiful practice. And for me, it's like it is, you can absolutely see it on days where I'm more mindful. It is a completely different thing than when I'm not as mindful. So I know where to look at, like I know the causes where to look at, and I don't search for them in the other person. But yes, finally, like we're not trying to put ourselves into situations like that. It's like we're not trying to fight a battle that is not ours. It is not our job to like missionize anyone. Or like tell them the real truth or anything. So like have your own like yeah. But if you can't avoid it, like your family, your friends, your this and that, then we don't burn bridges and we practice that. Otherwise, we don't knowingly put ourselves into situations where we are already having a feeling before.
Thank you for that. And actually, like, it's just so interesting too, like, because I think for a lot of people, well, one, thank you for pointing that out too, because I need to start, or I would like to start, like changing my vocab up, because I'm always saying, it's me, it's me, it's me. And I want to kind of like create that bit of like distance and change the vocabulary. It's not me, it's the nature or whatever. But I think what's so interesting with energies is that we or something, we blame the other person and we're like, oh, it's them that drained us. Like it's them, it's always them, rather than actually not realizing that that's our responsibility to kind of like look after our energy and to see like what's coming up for us. But I feel like so many of us just always blame that other person, like it's something about that person, it's something about their energy that like drains us, but actually it could be energy inside us being drained because of like the bad nature. And I'm just like, that's mad.
It comes back to almost like there's a quote, but I can't quite come back to it. It's like, don't worry about what others are doing. Others are going to do whatever they're going to do. But you are definitely going to live out the like for like the crops. All right, so you put the seeds into the ground, you're going to live off these crops. So if you don't put new seeds into the ground, even though you're living off the crops that you put the seeds into the ground before, um then worry about that one. Worry about that one only. And Yeah, 100%, like our responsibility. Like as long as we are not enlightened, as you say, like we're not fully our good nature, not fully our true self, but we still have all these other versions, then we look at the right we look at the right place to look, always. And then from that, like Karen likes to say always, like, if I'm good, things are good. So she's just making sure that she's good, meaning like she's with her good, and then things are gonna be good. Because even it's like you don't worry about someone who wants to fight with you if there's no one inside you that wants to fight. So if there's someone on the outside there, like, Zoe, you said you would like take out the trash and then you didn't, and this and that, and you're just like, you don't feel it. There's nothing on the inside to fight back, and you're not gonna be like, but rather you're just like, okay, I'm gonna take out the trash now. And it's like one person alone. You don't have to worry. They can say whatever they want to say, but you're not even feeling it. I'm sure you have had these moments where like someone kind of like was there and they wanted to like have someone to fight with, but you weren't feeling it, and like for you, your day continued the exact same way it was before that person was speaking. That's what we aim for.